April 25, 1874. Radio pioneer Guglielmo Marconi was born in Bologna, Italy.
You hear my voice as clearly and as distinctly as I think you should.
1507. America got its name nearly 15 years after Christopher Columbus's first voyage to the New World. A German cartographer first used the term on a world map to refer to the huge landmass in the Western Hemisphere. The name was in honor of Amerigo Vespucci, the Italian navigator. 1945. During World War II, American and Soviet troops in Europe met on the Elbe River. It was a sign that the collapse of Nazi Germany and the end of the war in Europe was near. 1990. The first mission to be launched as part of NASA's Great Observatories program, Space Shuttle Discovery, deployed the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit at about 300 nautical miles above the Earth. And 1918. Ella Fitzgerald, one of the great jazz singers of the 20th century, was born in Newport News, Virginia.
April 26, 1986. The world's worst nuclear accident happened at the Chernobyl plant in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. An explosion and fire at the plant killed at least 31 people, spewing radioactive clouds into the atmosphere that winds carried as far as Western Europe. 1865. Federal troops surrounded and killed John Wilkes Booth, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln's assassin, near Bowling Green in the state of Virginia. 1607. English colonists washed ashore at what's now Cape Henry in the U.S. state of Virginia. Weeks later, they established Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in the Western Hemisphere. 1937. Planes from Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy raided the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. And 1989.
Hello, friends. I'm your Vitamin Benjamin girl.
Actress and comedienne Lucille Ball, star of the classic TV hit series I Love Lucy, died in Los Angeles at the age of 77.
April 27, 1822. Ulysses S. Grant, the Civil War general who later served as U.S. president, was born in Point Pleasant, Ohio. Grant led Union forces during the war's final years, receiving the Confederate surrender at Appomattox. 1521. Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan was killed in the Philippines, but Magellan's crew continued and ultimately completed the first circumnavigation of the globe. 1805. In North Africa, an attack during the First Barbary War inspired the lyrics of the U.S. Marine Corps hymn. And 1947. In New York, ailing baseball star Babe Ruth was honored at Yankee Stadium on Babe Ruth Day.
There's been so many lovely things said about me, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to thank everybody. Thank you.
Baseball Sultan of Swat died the following year. April 28, 1945. A violent end for Italy's dictator Benito Mussolini during the last days of World War II in Europe. Italian resistance fighters executed Mussolini and his mistress as they tried to flee the country. 1937. Saddam Hussein, dictator of Iraq for decades, was born in a village near the desert town of Tikrit. A U.S.-led invasion toppled Saddam from power in 2003. He was executed more than 3 years later. 1967, heavyweight boxing champ Muhammad Ali refused to be inducted into the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. Ali was stripped of his title and barred from boxing for 3.5 years. The U.S. Supreme Court later overturned the conviction. And 2001, California businessman Dennis Tito became the world's first space tourist. Tito lifted off in a Russian rocket with 2 cosmonauts on a journey to the International Space Station.
April 29th, 1992. Rioting hit Los Angeles, killing 55 people and causing $1 billion in property damage. It happened after 4 white police officers were acquitted of almost all state charges in the videotape beating of black motorist Rodney King. 1945. Near the end of World War II in Europe, American soldiers liberated Dachau, Nazi Germany's first concentration camp. And in Berlin, Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler married longtime companion Eva Braun. They committed suicide the next day. 1974, U.S. President Richard Nixon said he would release edited transcripts of some secretly made White House tapes related to the Watergate scandal. Nixon resigned months later as the scandal forced him from office. 1954, comedian Jerry Seinfeld, star of the hit TV sitcom that bears his name, was born in Brooklyn, New York. And 1899, Duke Ellington, jazz composer, band leader, and pianist, was born in Washington, D.C. April 30th, 1945. Nazi Germany's dictator Adolf Hitler committed suicide during the last days of World War II in Europe. Hitler and Eva Braun, his longtime mistress and wife of one day, took their own lives as Soviet troops approached their bunker in Berlin. 1975, the Vietnam War ended as South Vietnam's capital of Saigon fell to North Vietnamese forces. Reporter George Esper was on the scene.
Many government officials, high-ranking military officers have fled.
Vietnam was unified under communist rule and Saigon was renamed Ho Chi Minh City. 1789. In New York, George Washington took the oath of office as the first president of the United States of America. 1803. The U.S. doubled in size with the purchase of the Louisiana Territory from France for about $15 million. And 1933. Country music star Willie Nelson was born in Texas. May 1st, 2003. Weeks after the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq and the fall of Saddam Hussein, U.S. President George W. Bush announced major combat operations in Iraq had ended. But the speech became increasingly controversial as U.S. casualties in Iraq mounted. 1960. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union shot down an American U-2 spy plane over its territory. The Soviets captured the plane's pilot, Francis Gary Powers, holding him captive for nearly 2 years. 1931, the Empire State Building was dedicated in New York. The 102-story skyscraper was the world's tallest structure for more than 2 decades. 1941, Rosebud. Also in New York, Citizen Kane premiered. Orson Welles' first feature film remains an all-time movie masterpiece. And 1967, rock singer Elvis Presley married Priscilla Beaulieu. They divorced 6 years later.